Okay, welcome back everyone. I know it's been a while since we've done a video like this. This one's going to be a little bit longer than normal because it's a topic that's going to require some thinking depending on what aspect we're looking at the problem from. So we're going to define percents. Percent is a way of helping us understand how much we have of something. And it's basically defined as the number of parts if the total is written out of 100. So really what this means, the definition or the origin of the word percent, per meaning for every, and cent meaning 100. So this is a Latin word meaning just for every 100. So it helps us to be able to compare two different fractions or two different decimals to one another and really understand where they fall in comparison to each other. So for instance, we could compare a quiz that's out of 10 to a quiz that's out of 15, even though they don't have the same denominator, because we can essentially use the percentages, which is a way of basically writing every fraction with a denominator of 100. So here's an example. We've got, it says, what does 45% look like as a decimal and as a fraction? So we said 45%, percent means for every 100. That would mean that we've got 45 for every 100. Okay, so there's our fraction, essentially. It can, of course, be simplified. If we want to divide by 5, then that would be 9 out of 20. And then we can write it as a decimal. And a decimal is also very easy. If 45 is our whole number percentage, we'd take our decimal point and move it 2 spots to the left. Because remember, if we look at our fraction over here, this is really just 45 divided by 100. And again over here, if we take a whole number, 45, and divide by 100, all we need to do is move our decimal point 2 spots to the left. So our fraction form is 45 out of 100, or 9/20. I'm going to label that as our fraction. And this is our decimal. Alright, so let's try starting with a fraction. If we have 63 out of 100, what does that look like as a percent and as a decimal? Well, we learned a while back that when we are writing a fraction into a decimal form, we want to write it as if it were out of 100. Here we're automatically given a fraction that's out of 100, so all we need to do to write this as a decimal is just write 0.63. There's our decimal form. And to convert it into a percentage, all we need to do is move our decimal point 2 spots to the right, and we have 63%. So again, this is our decimal, and this is our percent. Alright, let's try 0.32. Remember, that's pronounced properly as 32/100ths. So if I write 32/100ths as a fraction, I know it's just going to look like that. And I can simplify because I know that 32 and 100 are both divisible by 4. 100 divided by 4 is 25, and 32 divided by 4 is 8. So I can simplify that to 8/25. Now to write it as a percentage, remember, like we said before, to go from a decimal to a percentage, all we need to do is move our decimal point 2 spots to the right. So that would give me 32%. So this is my percentage, and this is my decimal. Alright, so last thing we're going to do is try a real world example of where we're going to deal with percentages. And this is probably a very common one that you're going to deal with all the way through school, is test scores and quiz scores. So if you score 7.5 out of 10 on a quiz, what percentage of the quiz did you get correct? Well, 7.5 out of 10 we can write as a fraction, 7.5 out of 10. Well, now we're in a little bit trickier position because it's not written out of 100, but I know that I can write this as being out of 100. Remember, when we're dealing with percentages, this has got to be a part to whole ratio, and so we want to make sure that here we're dealing with a part to whole ratio, which we are. Remember, this up here is the part, which is the questions we got correct. The 10 is the whole, which is the total questions, right? If I write that total, and this is correct. So now, if we're imagining that this was we're taking another quiz which is out of 100, well, then this is going to be a total of 100. And now we've got just another percentage, or just another proportion here. So 10, we know, multiplies by 10 to get us to 100. And we can do the same thing with our 7.5. We'll multiply by 10, which will give us 75. So that means that I got 75% of the questions correct, or I could say that in decimal form it will come out to a 0.75. So again, this is percent, and this is the decimal form. All right, so now that you've gotten some notes down, I'd like you to go ahead and try the back page of your notes. See if you can get some of these practice questions correct. And once you feel comfortable with that, then go ahead and move on to IXL and try the activity S.1 and see how successful you are with that.